Hi, my name is Jim and I was retired. Today was the day. Higher than expected consumer price index quaked the financial world. FOMC minutes were released this afternoon, shedding more light on the state of monetary policy. But there was one small number that eclipsed all of that. Now, that was the final reading we needed to figure out what the inflation factor will be for the next 6 months of an I bond purchased in April 2024. So in this week's video, I will look at the return of the I bonds. Stay tuned. I bond stands for inflation, and it's from the U.S. Treasury, and it includes both a fixed rate and an inflation factor. And it's meant to park money to protect it from inflation over a period of time. Let's review the formula. Series I bonds earn a fixed rate and a semi-annually adjusted inflation rate. Those combine in this formula to give us the annualized combined rate for a 6-month period. Now, for an I bond purchased April 2024, it will earn a fixed rate of 1.3% plus 2 times the inflation factor of 1.97% plus the fixed rate times the inflation factor. And that gives you that initial rate of 5.27% for the first 6 months. Now, the I bonds inflation factor changes every 6 months. So in October 2024, the I bond that you purchased in April will start earning the next inflation factor, the one that will be set on May 1. And we now know that it's going to be 1.48%. Here's the formula that tells us that. And if you look, it means that the inflation bond is going to earn that fixed rate of 1.3% plus 2 times the 1.48% inflation factor plus the fixed rate times the inflation factor to give us the 4.28%. And that's the annualized rate that a bond purchased in April will earn for its second 6 months. Now, keep in mind that fixed rate stays the same for 30 years. It keeps on repeating this process with the inflation factors. When you combine that 5.27% for the first 6 months and the 4.28% for the second 6 months, you will get an average of about 4.75% for that 12 months. But because of the way I bonds compound semi-annually, the CAGR, or the compounded annual growth rate, will be a little higher. I've done a lot about I bonds, and if you need more history and understanding of I bonds, please take a look at that playlist up there. Hey, before I go any further, please like and subscribe to this channel and then hit that bell if you like entertaining ideas from a DIY retiree. It'll help this channel appear higher in the search algorithms. Here is the spreadsheet that I created to track inflation readings that go into the I bond inflation factor. And today's 0.65% month-over-month reading was the 6th reading in a row. But the formula really is the index readings from September to March. And that's what gives us the inflation factor of 1.48%. Now, if you look here at the formula, you can see that this estimated inflation factor for May 2024 is really rounding the difference between these two numbers here, September and March. But the big unknown over there is the fixed rate that will be announced officially on May 1. There is no spreadsheet to figure that out. Now, if it holds at 1.3%, then the composite rate will be 4.28% for bonds purchased in May. Now, I did put over here what would the new combined rate be if they did lower it to 1.2%, like David Enna at TipsWatch thinks might happen. I'm not so sure, though. With this hot inflation reading, they may leave it at 1.3% for those that purchase in May as well. We'll see. But if you buy in April, you'll get the current rate plus the 4.28% for the next 6 months. Now, I went back and looked at the changes in the fixed rate going back to 1998, and I sorted them out between November and May. And there is a slightly higher chance in November compared to May that you'll have an announced change. In May, changes were announced 58% of the time, and no changes were made 42% of the time. But in November, changes happened 72% of the time, and only 28% of the time saw Novembers with no change. Now, if you look at the changes in the fixed rate going back to 1998, you see that it's been below 1% for most of the time. Now, it did start higher and then fell, but it's only been the last 2 years that it's returned to rates above 1%. So whether you buy in April with a 1.3% fixed rate or in May with maybe a slightly lower 1.2% rate, you can see on this line, you're still getting a great long-term rate in the fixed rate for your inflation protection. Now, when you compare the initial composite rates that we've seen in I-bonds since 2021, we've seen the first, third, and fifth highest rates. And that's when I started getting interested in I-bonds again. The May 2023 ranked 20th, but the current rate announced November 2023 and currently running through the end of April is the 10th highest ever. If the May 2024 is at 4.18% with a 1.2% fixed rate, it still would rank about the 22nd highest rate. If you buy before the end of April, you'll get that 5.27% bond with a 1.3% fixed rate. And keep in mind that if you purchase late in the month of April, you'll still get all of April's interest. So I went back and looked at bonds purchased in the past, back in April 2022 when the fixed rate was 0, and it earned 7.12% for the first 6 months, and then 9.62% for the next, and 6.48, and then 3.38, and most recently here, 3.94%. And then starting in the October timeframe when the rate changes, that April 2022 bond would only earn 2.96. Now, after that, who knows what the rate's going to be? So I started using 1.23%, which is the average inflation factor over the life of I-bonds. And I use that in each of these scenarios. So here's a bond purchased in April 2022. Here is a bond purchased in December 22, where the fixed rate had gone up to 0.4%. Here is a bond that's purchased this month in April of 2024. It has a fixed rate of 1.3%. And here is a bond purchased next month, and it has a fixed rate of 1.2%. And then I went to this sheet to compare all of the cumulative interest over the life of the I bonds, these columns here, and that's what is here. And now this chart then shows the cumulative interest earned through December 2029 of those bonds. And as you can see here, the early bonds, because of the semi-annual compounding, benefited because they got started when interest rates were high, and you'll never catch up to them. Now, it does show that between the two, April and May, April has the advantage because of the slightly higher fixed rate and the fact that it's getting a higher first 6 months before it gets the rate that the May rate starts with. So between this month or next, the edge is clearly with April because of that higher interest in the first 6 months and the slightly higher fixed rate. But this chart also tells me that trading in your I bonds for newer bonds is not an automatic advantage. Sometimes it'll pay to keep those in place and buy new bonds to get this new rate. Now keep in mind, that I bonds purchased and held for 5 years will no longer have a 3-month interest penalty. You know, you can't redeem an I bond in the first 12 months. And in years 1 through 4, you'll be penalized 3 months of interest when you redeem the bond early. But after 5 years, there's no longer that penalty, and you can redeem anytime after 5 years up to the life of the 30-year bond. Now, I will conclude with my standard warning. I am not a financial planner. I'm not an accountant. I have no initials after my name, so take these as entertaining ideas from one educated consumer to another. Always do your own due diligence and seek out a professional if you need one.